Hello and welcome to ACS Golf and this week's review where we're looking at the Wilson Staff D7 forged irons. Now the reason I'm looking at these is if you've watched my videos before, when I first started out doing these sort of videos, I had the MP20 MMCs in there, very much elite player cavity backs, really loved them, but in winter when it was cold, horrible weather, I struggled with them. Didn't have enough forgiveness for me, but in the summer I was fine with them. So with that in mind, I was like, all right, time to trade them in. And then I got these. The Mizuno JPX 921 Hot Metal. So completely other side of the spectrum. So game improvement irons, bigger, chunkier, a lot more forgiveness. And I love them. It's helped me lower my handicap by 4. I'm now down at 14. They're great irons and my handicap is dropping at the moment. So really helpful there with the forgiveness, the distance, etc. Do check the video of this out, by the way, if you haven't seen my review of these irons, because they are great. Even the MP20s, actually, to be honest, because they are fantastic, and I do miss them. But with that idea, I've gone from something very small, that, like I said, in the summer I could get away with, to something a bit more chunkier, and I sort of want something personally for me in that sort of middle, where the club head size is a little bit smaller, a little bit sleeker, sort of sexier, but yet still gives me a decent amount of forgiveness. And one thing I do miss as well, I miss that buttery feeling from a forged club. Don't get me wrong, the Mizuno Hot Metal cast irons, they feel lovely, but I do miss that feel of that just buttery smooth when it comes down the middle. Oh, it's one of the best feelings in the world when you sort of hit that sort of forward blade like iron. It's perfect. So I thought about these, you know, forged iron could get the buttery feeling, a little bit smaller than my Mizunos. I'll just show you there. See, just not a huge amount, but just a little bit more compact, you can see there. And it is on the top line as well. But then still should have loads of forgiveness in it. So that's the reason why I picked them up. And that's the reason why I'm testing today to see if I'm going to replace my Mizunos with these clubs. So as always, let's have a closer look at the club. Then we'll talk about all the technology that's in there, get down to the range, throw some figures at you, and then go through the ACS golf scale, and then discuss at the end if I'll be making that upgrade, or is it possibly a downgrade if I wanted to. So I'll discuss that with you at the end. Okay. Oh, and before we actually get to have a closer look at this club, guys, do remember to subscribe to the channel. More subscribers, more videos I'll be able to release in the long term. So if you're enjoying all these reviews, do remember to subscribe. Okay. Now let's go and have a closer look at the club. So there you go, a closer look at the club. I really do think it's a pretty thing. I love the brush steel about it. Not sure about the power holes. Obviously it doesn't affect when you hit the club, but it does when it's sat in the bag. So we'll talk about the looks later on in the ACS Golf Scale, but there it is. Now, going into technology here. So you've got the 2 power holes. By the way, this is very much similar to the D7. Now the D7 was actually released a few years before. This is actually only 2020. The Forge lineup was released with the idea to appeal to that sort of player who wants a Forge feeling club, but then with loads of forgiveness and it's sort of a more compact shape than the D7. It's been replaced now, by the way, by the D9. It was replaced in 2021. So it only lasted a year, but the D9 Forge irons is still ongoing. So if you want to pick them up or get tested, you can, because they're still brand new. But going into the technology, went off a bit of a tangent there, but there we go. Going to technology. So we have 2 rows of power holes incorporating a urethane filled power chamber, because this is a cavity back inside the head that flexes at impact while reducing vibration for a softer, more solid feel. A more compact head, as I mentioned in the D7 already, with less offset, higher toe, and a thinner top line will suit the eye of the better player. More aggressive power holes lower the CG to increase ball speed and launch. So lowering that center of gravity, so you can get that ball in the air and increase the ball speed, because these are actually quite still lofted, especially for a forged iron. I'll go into that in a second. Um, Basically, the way it's forged is it's got a soft 8620 carbon steel face, which is forged. So there's the forged sort of aspect of it. And as I'd say, it's obviously is a cavity back, that power chamber there with the urethane in there, and with that forged face to give you that more softer feeling. Now, just talking as I was mentioning there about the lofts, these are quite strong lofted clubs, so that's why they really want to get that center of gravity really down the bottom to really help, even though it's lofted up, to still get the ball popping in the air, so you're getting maximum distance and obviously stopping power and consistency. Because when you're looking at a better player who's sort of looking at their irons, is not necessarily, and this is something, to be fair, that I do sometimes find with the hot metal is, you're getting the distance, but you're not getting the stopping power because it's not coming out as high or with as much spin as you'd expect sort of a more elite player's club. So, this sort of being aimed not necessarily from the high handicappers, but from mid downwards. That's something that people really look for. You look for the higher spin rate, you look for the ball stopping capability, sorry, so that when you hit, say you're 8, say you're 7 in, say maybe you're 6 in, onto the green, it's going to stop and it's going to stay there. So that's something that they've really tried to do in this club, make it consistent and make that ball stop to appeal to the better players. Now, loft wise, as I mentioned, the reason I've had to lower that CG is because of the loft, really, because loft wise is still, so 3 iron, it's 19 degrees. 4 iron is 21.5. Traditional for 4 irons, I'd say it's 24. 5, 24.5 degrees. 6, 27.5 degrees. 7 iron, 30.5 degrees. Again, that's about 4 degrees stronger than your sort of average, well, your more traditional 7 iron. 8, 34.5 degrees. 9, 39 degrees. Pitching wedge 44 and gap wedge 49. So there is that idea with this. If you do go for this and you've got to say gap wedge 52, you may need to worry about the gapping a little bit, just because obviously these are trying to be a bit more distance as well. So do be aware of that. For example, same thing with the Mizunos. I actually play with a 48 gap wedge now, and it originally used to be 52 because the gapping wasn't right. So do be aware of that. But there you go. So all the technology in there, the idea to make the feel nice, increase the launch, distance, and obviously the forgiveness. So yeah. Now let's get to the driving range and let's see if it actually does what it says on the tin. And then we'll get back and we'll go for the ACS Golf Scout. Okay, see you in a bit. So here I am down at the driving range now. Let's jump straight into those figures. So on average, the carry was 155 yards, total distance 163 yards, ball speed 110 miles per hour, launch angle 90 degrees, and height 70. Now, one thing that I did love about this club, which I think is a really good thing, because when you're looking at sort of better players' irons, basically you're really looking for that consistency, and what you can see with the ball flight and a lot of these are actually very consistent, which really pleased me because that's exactly what I wanted. Now, distance wise, 160 yards is probably what I'd want my 7 iron to be. I mean, obviously if I'm playing with game improvement irons, then I expect it to come out a little bit more towards that 165, near 170. So 163 total distance is pretty much bang on where I'd want it to be. Now, hitting these irons, I did enjoy the feeling, but I will say straight off the bat, it doesn't feel like a Mizuno or, something that's fully forged, just blade-like technology sort of thing. This is really much jam-packed with technology to give that forgiveness. So felt nice, but didn't feel buttery soft. Did feel powerful and strong, but not as soft as I wanted it. So there you go. Quite impressed, really. As I mentioned before, anything above 160 for me with a 7 iron is good, is what I sort of aim for. If you're looking at more elite clubs, high spin, etc., and more traditional lofts, I might not necessarily get to that 160, but 160 is the one thing I aim for. So to have this on the average 163, really happy. I will say, obviously, this is a regular, quite a light regular shaft. So not really built for me. Really, I need that sort of more heavier stiff. It's a great shaft though. KBS, taper lights. That's the thing about Wilson. I mean, they're premium. A lot of these clubs at the moment, especially sort of the D9 range, D7 range, don't cost premium, but they still have really premium components. So it's always something to think about. But now 163, just checking there. Only I did have a couple that dropped under the 160, which really weren't good hits, very much off the bottom of the club, but still, talking 5 yards difference. And then there was a few which I actually managed to absolutely destroy when I really went for it, and I was getting 173 longest yards. Now, that's nothing to do with the club. That's more of me, to be honest, just getting used to it and just increasing my ball speed, swing speed, because I do find with a regular, I sort of got to be a bit more thoughtful before really going for it. So there you go. So happy with that. So if we go straight into the ACS golf scale now, let's start with distance. Remember, it's 1 to 5, 5 being the best and 1 being the lowest. So I've given it 3.5 out of 5. I think the distance is good. I don't think it's like a D7. If you think it's going to be a rocket ship, it isn't. But sort of for what it's trying to be with its sort of more compact shape, forgiveness feel wise, I think it's very good. So 3.5 out of 5. I think it's good, solid distance. Now, as I mentioned, really happy with the figures where I want them to be. Feel. Now, this is where I'm a little bit more disappointed. I mean, it's a cavity back still. It's got urethane in there. It's built more forgiveness, but I was hoping for a little bit better feel. Not bad feel, don't get me wrong. Still 3.5 out of 5. So it feels nice, feels very powerful off the face. But I just wanted a little bit more of that forged feeling. I wanted a little bit more of that sort of butter soft feeling. And you just don't get it with this. If you think you're picking up, you're thinking, oh, this is going to be like any forged iron I've tried before. It's going to feel really great. You're going to feel right out of the middle, feel where all your big misses are, etc. No, with the forgiveness in there and everything like that, and the way it's been set up, it doesn't. It feels very nice, but for me, it sort of borderlines with the sort of the more cast irons like this, Mizuno JPX there. Really nice feeling cast irons. It's sort of on par with that. So I was a little bit disappointed with that. I wanted it to feel a little bit better, and it's quite a few times I had to get out of the middle, and it's out of the middle. It's felt nice, but I just wanted that little bit more. So a little bit disappointed with that, but there you go. Now going to looks. Looks, 3.5 out of 5. Now, the only reason I get it 3.5 not higher is because of them. Me personally, being that club, being sat in the bag, if I'm looking at those all the time, I'm just not a massive fan of it, to be honest. So 3.5 out of 5. Generally, the whole look itself is absolutely fantastic. I love the shine, everything like that. One thing I will say as well is they do this sort of here feels a bit, I don't know, cheap tacky, which I have a problem with Wilson Staff irons. They sort of stick that in there, and yeah, I know in the other models like C300s, these are falling out, these sort of bits here. They get bashed about a bit quite as well because they're not metal. I don't know what they are, but yeah. So 3.5 out of 5. Yeah, there it is. It's a good looking iron, but a few little flaws, I feel. So there you go. Now, forgiveness. I'm in a bit of a conundrum about this because I can't decide if I'm going to give it 3 or 3.5. I really don't want to start going down the rabbit hole of having like 3.25, 4.25, because I might as well then just make the ACS golf scale out of 20 or whatever. So I've written down 3.5. It could be a 3. It's sort of it is in the middle. I mean, there is for what it is, more compact head, there's a lot of forgiveness in there. Don't get me wrong. But if you're a high handicapper who plays D7s and still needs that sort of forgiveness from a D7 normal, this is going to fall short because it's a smaller club. You're just not going to get it. So don't expect it to sort of drop down to that. But you know what, I'm going to give it a 3.5 because I do think for what it is, for the size of it, the compactness of it, I think it is very good forgiveness. So 3.5 out of 5. If you strike your irons pretty well, you won't be disappointed with this at all. If you're not very good with your irons, I'd look for more forgiving model personally if I was you. But this is really aimed at a broad sort of mass of people. So do be aware of it. If you want that little better looking iron, do look out for it, because we get on to the best thing about this club, for me anyway. Don't get me wrong, being very solid across the board. Wilson staff have made an absolutely perfect iron here in my mind. Really good. Obviously, not the top of the top, but a very good solid iron. But the price is awesome, really. So if you're looking at maybe Golf Bidder, so your second-hand shops over here in the UK and America, obviously Replay Golf. I need to learn some of these American second-hand shops. I know there's a PGA store, they sell second-hand bits and bobs as well. I've been to America a few times, Florida, but I do need to remember these names of them. But second-hand store, etc. over here in the UK anyway, you're looking at sort of just under £400, just under $500 mark, which it's not great, to be honest. It's solid enough. It's good enough to be in that price bracket, 100%. But I think, I think it could be cheaper. But the real deals here are on eBay. So especially here over in the UK, people aren't thinking about this iron. So if they're put on auction, I've seen them for the pitching wedge go for £240. So that's around $300. 5 to pitching wedge. Another one went for £230. So it's about just under $290. And then, buy it now. I've seen it go for £350, just under $430, well, around $430, $440. And then 5 to pitching wedge again, buy it now, £315, just under $400. So the price of these, if you can keep your eye out on eBay, is an absolute bargain. And that's why I'm giving it 4 out of 5, because to be honest, if you can pick this up for under £250, for the pitching wedge, under $300, you won't be unhappy at all. You'd be extremely happy with that. And it'll be an absolute steal, because they are great irons, really are. So 4 out of 5 for price. If you're looking for something that, don't get me wrong, still feels very nice, looks the part, does its business very well, and you're sort of looking around that budget, definitely look at this, because it is an absolute bargain for what it is. And don't get me wrong, I know I've only been saying 3.5 out of 5, and for distance 3.5 out of field, but then I'm comparing this to, over the years, what I've been doing, MP20 MMCs, which is like 4.5 out of 5. They're proper forged irons there, and I'm dealing with really forgiving irons and distance along the, like these hot metal ones was 4 out of 5, where they really are game improvement irons. So just because it's got 3.5 out of 5 does not make this a bad club at all. For what this club is and what it's aimed at, it's actually very, very good. I just want to confirm that for you guys out there, okay? So do have a look at it on the second-hand market if you're thinking of getting, let's be honest, very pretty, apart from that, but very pretty irons, more compact, forged. They do feel good, not like a normal forged iron personally, but they do feel good, powerful off the face. It's definitely worth it, really is. Will I put it in the bag personally? Will I go out and spend £250? Not really. Only personally for me, if I was ever going to take the hot metal out of the bag, I'd want something that really gives me that really nice feel, because performance wise, it's not really, like I said, that does go further, and it's obviously consistency with shots is far better. This really, obviously, ball flight, stopping rate, spin rate, etc., is better with this. But for me, I think I just want to bridge that gap a little bit more between the MP20 MMCs and the JPXs. So something a little bit more in the middle would be what I want. So not for me, but I'm really happy I tried it, because I really did enjoy hitting this 7-iron, really, to be honest. And it's definitely something to look out for in the future for you guys if you're looking down this route. Okay, so there you go. There's my review of the Wilson Staff D7 forged irons. Don't be surprised, to be honest, if I said all this and then at the end of the summer I actually have these in the back, because I feel like I might have to take this out and hit it a few more times. Yeah, anyway, there you go. So guys, remember, give this video a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel to make sure you don't miss any of those reviews I'm doing every Sunday. As always, got some great stuff coming up. And do remember to comment down below if you played Wilson Staff or do play Wilson Staff irons. Let me know what you think of them. And yeah, because I'd be really interested to hear what you guys think about. Okay, have a great week, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.